I'm excited to share with you guys about vision boards, and Krista is keeping me sane, obviously, because that was a little bit stressful. uh, all right, so one of the things that I like to have everybody keep in mind is the whole principle of that what you focus on expands. There is a thing in our brain that's called the reticular activating system. And that reticular activating system basically is how our brain is able to categorize and prioritize the things that it's going to pay attention to. Because otherwise, we would go absolutely insane with all of the pieces of information that are coming into our brains at any given time. Everything from what you're sitting on to the shoes touching your feet to your own hair touching your neck to little sounds around you and all the visual inputs, and it literally would be just too much for your brain to all take in at one time. And so when you use something like a vision board, you are actually allowing your subconscious, this reticular activating system, to work in your favor. So, an example of how this works is maybe you had a time where you were like, oh man, I really love that make and model of car. And you start thinking about possibly getting that make and model of car, or you're trying to pick between two different ones. And instantly, you start seeing them everywhere. Everywhere you go, you start seeing that car. Another example that I had happen for me is I swear I never really even thought about anybody on the planet that was pregnant at all ever until when I was first pregnant. And then suddenly I was seeing women all around me that were pregnant. And I even could notice that somebody was pregnant when they were just barely pregnant. But before, I wasn't aware of that at all. So, this is how a vision board can work. So, here's some really good points about why they work. It creates an emotional connection that can motivate you. We'll talk about some more of that as we move through our presentation a little bit more. It makes it real in your mind so you can believe that it's possible. I remember years ago, I was teaching for Weight Watchers International as a Weight Watchers leader. And every single class, at the end of the class, I would have a quote for all of the people that came to my meetings. And one week, the quote I chose was a Walt Disney quote that was, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And I liked that one so much that I took that big old sticky tear pad paper off and I put it up on the wall of my bedroom. Believe it or not, my poor husband, right? So I was laying there in bed in the middle of the night and I'm looking around in the dusky dark and I could see that on the wall. If you can dream it, you can do it. And you guys, that was way back in 2010. And that was really the beginning of me going, oh, there really is something to, if you can imagine it, then you're going to be able to do it. Many adults forget how to dream in the daytime, and a vision board is a way to help you start doing that. When you do a vision board, it helps you get clear. It helps you clarify what you want because you're actually having to put something down. Now, for some people, like, oh, I don't want to put it on my vision board because I'm not 100% sure. And it's okay because just because you put something on your vision board doesn't mean it's stuck there forever. If 2 weeks from now you get clearer on something, then you can get a new picture or some new words and you can just change it. It's not a one and done thing, it's always evolving. They also provide you with a daily visual reminder of what it is that you want. So these are all reasons why they work. Now, Krista, I don't just want to barge through all this information. Is there anything in here that you have thoughts about that you want to pipe in?
And just the one thing that I kind of thought of was with the if you dream it, you like sometimes it doesn't have to be a full board, but just something that you have in your space, right? And so you had given us these bracelets that said dream big in the daytime or dream in the, and I wrapped that around my water bottle. for a while. I don't know where that water bottle is now. But so every time I had a sip of water, I could see that message. So it can, the vision boards are kind of a bigger, a time that we put into that, but it can also be these little daily reminders too that kind of do the same purposing.
Yeah, it's so true. Um, and people do the same kind of thing even with like a little post-it note in their car or something, right? They
Hmm.
can they can help as long as it's helping you anchor onto something that you're envisioning that you want, then it's acting as a vision board. Just a vision board is kind of a more formal way. Something else I didn't put on here, but another reason why they work is because they're fun. It activates a whole different part of your brain when you're in that process of creating and doing something fun.
Hmm. And there's community associated. Usually, when I've made it, it's been with a group of women or something like that where we've done it together. Um, and so it kind of creates that community. Or I'll do it as an ending. I used to teach a whole yoga training workshop, and at the end of it was that vision, like, what do you want to do with your career from this going forward? So it's that really good kind of statement piece of just kind of putting everything together after you've been through a big process like that is super
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah, you know what you just made me think about is it's true. So many times when I've done my vision board, it has been part of a tribe or community kind of an activity. And even as a family, we did some vision boards, and Noah actually took a picture of a Hawaii beach and put it up. And unbeknownst to us, from when he created that, then our son Eli was called to serve in the army stationed in Hawaii. And then right before everything needed to shut down, the three of us, went to Hawaii. So just some more evidence of it working, right?
Hmm. Yeah, just putting it out there, right?
Yeah. So maybe you've never done a vision board before. Maybe you're even listening to Krista and I and going, I don't know, girls. Well, just stick with us, okay? Because you guys, it is fun and it does work. So, the first thing to do is get clear on your vision. And again, don't be too worried if it's not perfect because it can continue to evolve even from when you put it onto your vision board. Create some kind of a folder and get some pictures. That can be a actual like physical envelope or folder where you're cutting pictures out and you're putting them into there. It can be a folder on your computer and you're finding pictures out on the internet and you're saving them in there. I find that most people do a little bit of both because you can take those pictures that you found out in your Google searches or whatever and you can print those and then put them on your board. And then you want to organize them in some way. Here is just an example of a vision board, right? It's not anything super fancy. It's actually a little bit more like a cork board, right? Let me, can you see me? It keeps disappearing on my view. Actually, I don't want to stop the share because I'm afraid that it'll not share again. But
I can see you fine. Like I can see you and the screen.
oh, so I can't see any other people at all. I
I
can't
just
see
see you.
myself. So this is my vision board. I'll show it again when I'm not screen sharing too. But you can see I've got things that have come off and I've got things that I'm still working on. And actually, when I pulled this out, well, it's up on a desk upstairs in my office, so I shouldn't say pulled it out. But when I brought it down here for tonight, I realized same kind of thing. I had put this as a historical place that I wanted to go in Nauvoo, Illinois, and we went. As a family, we went and did that history test. So that like needs to be pulled off of there. The other thing I wanted to do was to be able to moderate for a self improvement program that there is, and I've done that several times too. So this is good for me as well because it's time for me to revisit and to change things around.
And I love the concept of taking it off. I've seen somebody who had a like an album of everything that they had manifested. They kept track of that. So they put it into an album. So then they could kind of look back and say, oh yeah, these are all of the things that came off of our vision board. And then you
Hmm.
replace it with the next goal or the next. thing that you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I really do feel like that's a critical piece that sometimes gets lost in the process, because that whole practice of expressing gratitude and recognizing what has come to pass, what has happened, like the best way for us to be creating what we want in the future is to be aware of and honoring what happened in the past, right? And so I think that's a key piece, is to, when you pull things off the vision board because they've been completed, that you put them into a file or into an album or something like that. Okay, here's the fun part. Well, the whole thing's fun, but this is the really fun part. Okay, I know that many people have already gotten this information, but in case we have people who haven't done our class where we're talking about the emotions and essential oils, I wanted to really quickly show this little diagram and explain why pairing using essential oils with creating your vision board, getting clear on your visions, and then also when you're looking at your vision board each day, why it's so important. So when we smell an aroma, it goes in through our nose and into the olfactory system. And that olfactory bulb, which you can see that kind of highlighted in this picture right here, it the the olfactory system wraps right around the amygdala, kind of curls around it like this. And that amygdala is the part of the brain where all of our memory and all of our emotion is stored. And so, if you want to be helping your brain to create new pathways, to be able to expand, and to be able to access the parts of your brain that you're not in control of, your subconscious parts, then aroma is one of the fastest ways to do that. And it's why smell is our most powerful sense. You know, sight or hearing or touch, smell is the most powerful sense that we have. So, if you are looking at being able to create some new clarity on what you want, then there's going to be some specific oils that you can use to help you get more clear. Krista brought up a really good point. Well, maybe there's some limiting beliefs or some other things to clear away, right? And so there's specific oils you can use as you're creating your visions, even before you've gotten your pictures to put on there. They're going to help to clear away the I can't or I never or whatever. Krista, what else do you have to say about that? Was a big chunk of stuff. So what else do you have to say about those things?
Yeah. And it might be even something that you start beforehand, like even with the clearing, like before, like if you're going to be doing it at a certain time, maybe the day before or a couple hours before, you've got even something diffusing in the background that's just kind of helping to clear that out. Or to do like one of the clearing protocols where you use some tea tree and lemongrass and things like that to kind of let things go. But definitely to start off, because it's about bringing more abundance in or bringing more amplification in. Before we amplify, it's a really good idea to get rid of the stuff we're ready to let go of, right? Because we don't want to amplify that stuff that we're releasing. So
Right.
I think it's a super important part to do some clearing. And so the oils I would suggest for that would be like the tea tree, lemongrass, oregano is a really big clearer type thing. Let's see if I have what else I have on my list here. Um, Thyme is one that helps to kind of let things go. So just kind of those clearing away ones that we do.
Mm,
And then of the ancient oils, that galbanum is a really good. A lot of those ancient oils had some cleansing and preparing the body for spiritual kind of intentions with them. So they're kind of neat for that. So galbanum is one of the ones that kind of stuck out for me from the ancient oils collection. That would be neat to play with on that too.
yeah.
But doing some sort of just like cleansing, maybe even just like putting it in your hands, breathing it in and just kind of letting it go, or doing like a physical, just, letting that past, the essence of the past kind of go. Quite often too, like in a yoga setting, before we'll go in, they'll sage down the back of a person, right? So
Hmm.
putting it down your spine kind of is a good idea to kind of just cleanse all that away.
Yeah. I love that. Some other things that can come to mind with, if you want to make more of a process of it as well, is you can do a little bit of journaling. You can write things down on a paper and then burn that or shred it or destroy it in some way. Some oils
Mhm.
that came to mind, some of them that I thought of are the same as what Krista brought up. Myrrh also has got some really great properties that help with physical clearing as well. And
Hmm.
anytime something is having an impact on our physical body, it's impacting us emotionally as well. Like we can't separate our physical from our emotional, from our spiritual selves, right? So, myrrh and the Purify blend is also another one that people can reach to for this kind of thing. And remember, diffusing can be very powerful. So, maybe you're sitting here and you're listening to us today and you're like, well, I think I'm going to have time on Sunday to work on my vision board. So then over these next few days, you might want to be diffusing your lemongrass, diffusing the Purify blend. Um, and the other one that I thought of as well, I just drew a blank on it, which is so silly. Oh, Arbor Vitae is another one that can be really good um, can for clearing things out too.
Yeah, and that's a good one too, just in terms of vision boards in general, because it's aligning you with that divine um, purpose, so that you're kind of getting clearer on what's that your purpose and your um, dharma type thing in the yoga world. But yeah, if anybody
Yeah,
else has any suggestions, feel free to put them in the chat. Where that's always good to
right. And
crowdsource those.
kind of apologizing in advance to our friends on Facebook because I can't see your comments right now, but I will go back and see them. So if you have other ideas, things that you've found that have worked for you, or questions, just put them in the comments and I will come back around and be able to answer those. It just doesn't give the capacity to see both the Zoom screen and Facebook Live at the same time. So
I could take a look at those as we go along. Yeah.
sounds good. The next category of oils for supporting with doing your vision board were tree oils, because there's a number of them that fall into this category. We already talked about Arbor Vitae, and
Hmm.
another one that is a favorite of mine is black spruce. I love the black spruce, and particularly for when I'm looking for things to connect with divine and what my divine purpose is. And another one that's one of my favorites in this category is um, is also the Balance Blend, which has a number of tree oils in it. And then I know some of the ones you were going to talk about, Krista, they fall in this category too.
Yeah, and for the trios, are you looking for ones like for that connection in particular for that,
Well,
like
some
purpose?
I wanted the only reason why I thought of tree is not everybody necessarily has all of like the ancient oils, for example.
Hmm.
So I know sandalwood is one I turn to all the time when I'm looking for that connection. Some
Hmm.
you might think of, what are the oils that I turn to for meditation? Like those are the same kinds of ones that would fall into here.
Yeah.
Um, and then even it's not necessarily a tree because I believe it's more like a shrub, but spikenard. I also kind of thought of it in this category because of the clearing and the connecting that it can do as well.
Yeah, that one I was thinking of too. Yeah.
But in the ancient ones, we have frankincense is in there, and that's a tree oil.
Hmm.
Trying to think of another. Douglas fir helps to clear generational things, but still honor
Yeah,
your.
and Siberian fir is another nice one for in that
Mhm.
kind of realm. Hmm.
Yeah. It could be if you're striving to create more community, that cedarwood is going to be a good one for that because emotionally it is a blend, a tree of an oil that helps with that aspect of community, right?
Yeah. And sometimes too, when you're creating your vision board, there might be like an overarching theme of kind of what you're looking to step more into. Like sometimes sometimes there's like several different themes going on. Like there's like a relationship section of your board and all these different, areas. And sometimes there's just like one, you know, whether it's your word of the year or, one thing that you're looking to step more into, and whether it's like that connection with people and community, that would be a great one. Or there's lot like there's well, not within the tree, but then there's the love oils type thing. But if you're just looking more that, clearing away old patterns,
Hmm.
then definitely the Douglas fir and the Siberian fir are super helpful for that. The other one that comes up for me on not from like as one of the tree oils is Copaiba. It's like the
Mm,
oil of unmasking, right? So it really helps us, especially be one of the top oils I would say for vision boarding, because it kind of helps you kind of to see through to what's really true. And so that's one that I would use like early on in the process of vision board. Like maybe you have one that's like a the clearing, and then you want to like, you know, clear the energetic stuff away, but then you also want to get clarity on what you're looking into or what you're stepping into. And so some of those, like the Copaiba, is super good for that. Even vetiver is that kind of that centering and kind of grounding, getting you in that present moment
mhm.
type space. And lemon myrtle is another one that's kind of gives you clarity. That's not a tree one, but it's a going along that theme.
Right, like, we are kinda jumping around a little bit.
Yeah,
That's okay. So, because like, vetiver is actually a root from a
that's true.
grass,
That's a
right?
root. Yeah.
And yet I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we do kind of think of it as a tree because it just has so much stability to it, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
almost
Right.
feels like a tree, but it's that whole rooting aspect.
Yeah.
So, one thing I want to make sure that you guys know as you're listening to Krista and I is that there isn't there isn't a need for you to feel like you have to have all of these oils or use a whole bunch of oils. We're just trying to give a bunch of suggestions for a couple reasons. One is so that maybe something will ping your heart that you're like, "Oh yeah, that's the one I need." And two, I always am hoping that I'm teaching you about oils that you already have in your collection and maybe you haven't used them a lot or you haven't found a reason for them. So, I'm hoping that between all this that we're doing talking through all these different oils that you're going to feel drawn to something that you probably even already have in your collection that you'll
Mhm.
be able to execute on getting a vision board done for yourself really soon. Even if it's not this really big expansive vision board that you'd like to have at some point, but that you've got something that you start with, just like Noah did, where he started with putting up the picture of the Hawaiian beach, right?
And sometimes too, it's like when we give a bunch of different suggestions, but like definitely don't use them all, right? That would be overpower.
Yeah.
But just giving some suggestions like, okay, just pick one or two of these um, that we'll kind of look at going for, like maybe like making like a blend that you would use, or just doing a series of, 3 oils or 4 oils kind of max as you're doing
Mhm.
the process for sure. The other
Right.
one on tree before we leave tree oils would be manuka, right? Manuka is one that kind of raises our vibrational level and it
Mhm.
provides some kind of healing support within that. It's also quite a grounding and helps with that kind of manifesting, finding that, um, making things happen. Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Krista is definitely more the expert on the ancient oils, you guys. I'm gonna just kind of turn this section over to her. She had more time to study up on them today than I did, so
Let me find my file. I was doing some. I when we this kind of came about because I was listening to this presentation by Emily and just like, oh wow, that is an amazing group of oils for doing some of this work. So yeah, so some of the 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 ancient oils they're pretty powerful in what they can do. So don't necessarily use them all in one sitting type thing. But definitely neat to kind of start to play with. I think they're going to really open up some avenues. Interesting that they've come about right now as we're kind of like looking into 2021 and moving forward. And I think a lot of people have been, you know, coming inward and are now ready to like kind of like that butterfly, right? That you're in the cocoon for 2020 and now ready to emerge into something different. And there's a lot of power here for to help us do that. And we've kind of talked about um, a couple of them, like myrrh is one that gives us some of that cleansing, but it's also super just like nourishing and supportive, right? So after you do your clearing, you want to like really, you have to like bring it back and nourish yourself. Like kind of like after you've taken something out, you have to like build back up on that. So myrrh is a good one that kind of does a little bit of both aspects within it. Um, Frankincense is that one of like that protection. These are kind of the ancient oils that we've had for a long time. So definitely a beautiful one to do with this process. It's kind of, you know, the oil of truth, but also just provides this safe, sacred space around you. So I love diffusing that in an exercise like this would be wonderful as well, or as part of a blend. Galbanum is one that was like they used for clearing and kind of cleansing, but it's also referred to as a sacred mother's resin. So also has that supportive. So it's good that it's not just going to wipe things away, but it's also kind of has that built-in build-up coming through that. So yeah, it was traditionally used for cleansing spiritually and emotionally. So really good for that that aspect. Hyssop is one that they another like cleanse, like a pretty strong cleanser that they use to you know, purga, purgative, I guess is the word I'm looking for
Yeah,
on that.
it's almost
Um,
like a astringent.
yeah, definitely stringent qualities, and they use it for cleaning sacred spaces, right? So when you go into some of this work, can be super supportive on that regard. Um, couple, the contraindications on this one is if you're pregnant, leave it alone because it does cause menstrual bleeding in that respect. And if you've got epilepsy, was one of the ones that I've also heard that if you have that, this is not necessarily the one to play with too much on that regard. Myrtle, I think, is the other one that I had written some notes on, and that is like prosperity, hope, love, justice, and recovery, right? So lots of good things to kind of be tying into, and it's the love aspect. It was like sacred to Venus. In terms of her temple and that, and they would use it for like the wreaths around the head, and they still use it in some of um, the the royal family uses it still in their bridal bouquets. So kind of comes into that love aspect. But interesting that it's, in a bridal bouquet coming into like going into this new life. So just like we're talking about, it's like cleansing away, but also like stepping into love and to that prosperity of something new. So it has really good implications there for our vision boards. I think the only one I was missing, I don't have any notes on, was the cistus. Anybody else have I
One of the thing, well, and we might somebody else that might chime in the comments too, because we've got such a great
mhm.
community of oil people that are just passionate about learning about the oils. One of the things I do remember about that one is similarities with Litzia that have to do with connecting to divine and things that are more like if you're one that learns and talks in terms of chakras, that you're talking about more in these upper chakras being connected in there. But
Mhm.
I don't remember much else about it, to be
They're
honest.
they're new ones for us, so it's we're just kind of getting to start to play with them. So,
Yeah, they're kind of like getting to know new friends, right?
hmm
Um, so I've gotten them out, I've experienced them, I've played with them, but it's not like some of the oils that I've been hanging around with and playing with for 5 years, right?
hmm
Some another reference too, if you want to dive into these a little bit more, is we also have another class that's up on our YouTube channel, which is eoLIFE Education, that was presented by Meredith Westerside,
mm
and it is oils of the Bible. So there's more information about the ancient oils specifically. But as it comes to vision boards, I think one thing to keep in mind is like what Kristen and I already mentioned. You're not going to use all of these. You're going to pay attention to what stands out for you, maybe what it is that you have in your hands that you can use. And, um, you're going to pick two or three or maybe four oils that you're
hmm
going to use during this process of releasing the old and then being able to expand and dream and then being able to help lock in those new dreams, right?
hmm
The yoga collection, these are some of my favorite oils, especially if you're like, oh, that's so much information, just make it simple for me. Well, there's 3 blends in the yoga collection, and you literally can use them to be able to cover all the things that we've talked about. So once you have your vision board created and you're at that phase where it's in a place where you see it every single day, you do want to take the time to actually stop and look at it. Now, it'll still work. The reticular activating system, your subconscious, it is still going to work even if you don't intentionally stop in front of it and pay attention to it every single day. But if you do take that time to, for example, I love the Arise blend out of the yoga collection, and you put some Arise in the palm of your hands, and you're looking at your vision board, and you just take several deep breaths, like all the way in, right? And you allow yourself to even feel what that's going to be like to have that come forward that's there on your vision board. Then you're using this amygdala, right? You're using the whole olfactory system to your advantage to lock in those possibilities into your mind. And the other thing that is very useful is to have your vision board where it's up a little bit in your line of vision, because that does completely different things for the brain when you're looking up at something, um, and thinking about it and dreaming about it too. So when you stop and you look up at it and you're taking in those deep breaths, you're going to lock in those dreams, and you're going to help your brain to be able to find the things to piece that together in your subconscious, not effort on your part on these pieces of it, and have those things come forward. Do you have anything else to say about that, Krista?
I like that. As I'm looking in my office, it's like I know exactly where that's going to go because I have this little shelf that's not super visible for everybody else, but it's right there for me. When you look up, it's like looking to the future, and when you look down, this is one of the ones I just one of those things you remember from like yoga teacher training a long time ago. Like if your chin is down in shavasana, like you're focusing on the past. If you're looking like up, you're focused on the future. If you're looking straight ahead, you're in the present moment, right? So when we're looking at visioning, that makes total sense. I had never heard of it like that, but I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we haven't talked about yet is bringing in a sense of gratitude. We've talked about it a little bit, but some of the oils that do that would be like our wild orange, right? Or sense of playfulness can be
Mm-hmm.
like your peppermint and your ylang ylang. Those are some other ones that would be good to kind of, play with a little bit in terms of what you're using, and maybe sometimes too, like if you're looking at your vision board, um, in terms of, like the feng shui one, in terms of like the different quadrants of it. If there's one that you're stuck on, use an oil for that you know, um, section to help you kind of like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to bring in for that, whether it's relationships or love or wealth, and that type of thing. It's a wild orange, definitely ones that comes into that. And then green mandarin is another one that pops into my head for like manifesting things and making things happen. So like your litsea, your green
Mm-hmm.
mandarin, and then that for the yoga, that anchor blend is really good for like manifesting and making things happen, and all of the different things that come into that one.
Right,
Other
for
oh
actually birthing it forward, right? Like we got to get down into the root chakra down there, down in
Yeah, like
and
more like when you've already created it,
mm-hmm.
right? And so then like making it come into being kind of aspect. Claire sage, definitely like intuition coming into that. So as you're in the creative process, your lavender and your clary sage are super, like your brow chakra, intuition ones. All of those are super supportive, like while you're in the creative process of making it. Right?
Another blend that
Yeah.
I love for that part of the process too is our Immortel Blend. It has
Hmm.
many of the what you'd consider precious or sacred oils in there. We haven't
Hmm.
really talked about rose, but getting the Immortel Blend and using it for meditation and for visioning and those kinds of things, it can be kind of an all-in-one package because
Hmm.
of how amazing all the oils are that are in that Immortel Blend. So that was something that came to mind for me in this area too, for other blends and for other oils to use. And then sometimes it shifts. So it could be that you have something on your vision board and it's taking a little longer to come forward. So story time. You guys can see right here this solid blue diamond. That's the next rank for me in doTERRA, right? And these are the cowboy boots that I'm going to get when I hit blue diamond. And this here has had a piece of paper taped over it a few times because the date has changed and the date has changed and the date has changed. I'm still trusting the process, right? And yet it could be that as I'm looking at this, and it's been on there for a while, that maybe I want to use like the passion blend or something to like bring it back to life
Mhm.
again, or the motivate blend. Or can you guys see the point that I'm saying? It
Mhm.
Some things stay on your vision board for a while, and other things they manifest really, really quickly. And then you get to take those things off and put other things on. I
And
kind of like how as I'm stepping into 2021, I've got these empty spaces I get to fill. You guys, it's kind of fun.
yeah,
So you can be intuitive about that, about what you reach for as you're continuing to use your vision board. It may not be the same thing 2 months from now is what you use now when you're in the creation process of it.
and cinnamon is that oil of attraction, right? That's in the passion blend. So that's a
Mhm.
wonderful one to have, both in the creative process and the manifesting stage afterwards.
That reminds me because I know we have sometimes brand new people who haven't learned, gone to other classes too. Cinnamon, oregano, cassia, there's a number of them, even for many people, lemongrass, that if you're going to use them topically, you're going to want to heavily dilute them. Like
Mhm.
me personally, cinnamon, I need to have it diluted like 15 drops of carrier oil to 1 drop of cinnamon. So just be
Yeah,
mindful, reach out to the person who's teaching you about oils, about the ones that are hot, because with doTERRA's purity level, they're even hotter than what you would have experienced of other oils, right? So you do want to make sure that you dilute if you're using those oils.
that's why I love the passion blend because it's kind of gets diluted in with all the other oils in that, or
Mhm.
even the roller bottle is already pre-diluted. So it's a good easy grab as you're kind of like looking at your vision board, like to apply your passion as you're going forward on that. Is a good one. Brave is another one, right?
Oh,
The kids blend Brave is a beautiful one. Like either as you're creating to like dream big as to what you're going
yeah.
to put on there, and then having the courage to go for it because Brave has got wild orange or abundance kind of factor,
Yeah.
amaranth, osmanthus, and cinnamon.
I love that. I didn't even remember the kids' oils.
I love those ones. They're so
Yeah.
fun, right?
Maybe
Like
I
they're
need some forgive. Okay,
yeah.
moving
Yeah.
on. How Here are just some suggestions on how to pick the right images and quotes. So, you definitely want to shoot for the stars. You definitely want to be putting things on your vision board that are really what you want to have come forward, not just the things that are what you could see how it's possible. I like to think of it, for me, I'm super strategic. So, if I pick something that I can already see the steps on how that it could unfold, I'm really not allowing that subconscious, that reticular activating system, to do its job. I'm still thinking it's this step, then this step, then this step. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Whereas if I shoot for something that is beyond what I can figure out how that would unfold, then I'm really allowing that inspiration and allowing for things to be able to unfold in ways that are beyond what I'm trying to manipulate or control. And I don't mean manipulate in a bad way. I mean move around, right? Like chess pieces on a board. You want the end result to be there, and it's also okay to have imagery or words that represent the steps in between. So my vision board isn't necessarily the best example of that because they are just like more like the end result of things, and yet it can be super useful to have words or images that are showing the things in between too. And remember, they only need to mean that for you. So, for example, this I just posted about this. I can look at this elephant. It's actually a bookend, right? You see how he's positioned on one side, and I've got a pear, and he's metal. My grandma brought him back from Asia when she traveled there in the early 1900s. So I can look at this, and this represents my grandma. This represents Nana and heritage and travel and being brave and being a woman that isn't being constrained by like the norms of the times, right? But somebody else would look at this and it would mean something different. So pick images that mean that thing to you. And then when you're choosing words, it's the same kind of thing. Pick words that convey the feeling and what you're creating in yourself or in your vision. Um, so if you want to be more courageous, then you can even look at a thesaurus and look for words that go with that you can put in. And I do recommend having both words and pictures on your vision board because it activates different parts of your brain. Anything on this, Krista?
No, I think that's good. And it's kind of fun to, find words. You can take them totally out of context from a magazine or whatever, if you're doing it that way, or to print them off. Kind of fun. There's definitely, yeah, I like that idea that there's the words and the pictures are different parts of the brain to tie into.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I already mentioned about pairing it with journaling or with a journal. It can be really useful to use other things besides just paper. I don't know that you guys can see it on here. The other things where I had three-dimensional things are off, but even here on this solid blue diamond, I've got a couple gemstones that are stuck on here as well. I also have seen someone, they really wanted to bring a child into their family, and she put little baby socks up on her vision board. So consider other things. They're all just anchors to help your brain grab onto them, right? Were you going to say something, Krista? We already covered using aromatherapy and why that's so important. It really is a key. It's like you get the opportunity to 10x the effectiveness, right, by using aromatherapy. You can also draw, paint, or sketch. Maybe you can't find a picture that's exactly what you like, and this isn't about your artistic abilities. It's activating another part of your brain. If you do something that represents that, um, like one of the things that I want to do this year is to become a master gardener, to get certified as a master gardener. So I could simply draw a flower or something that was a vine or a simple pot with some plant like leaves coming out of it. It doesn't have to be a beautiful drawing, right? And that could represent that on my vision board. And go ahead and allow your feelings to guide you. It's something that we have to practice. Children do this, and yet as we age and life kind of maneuvers us around, then we can kind of forget how to dream and how to let our feelings guide us. And this is a place to have your feelings guide you. It's okay if you don't see how it would ever happen. Put it on your vision board. If it's something that you're dreaming about that you want to do, then put it on your vision board. And then put it in a place where you'll see it daily. And we already talked about that. And again, making it so that you do stop. You intentionally use an essential oil, breathe it in deeply, and look up at your vision board. As you do that, then it will make a difference. Okay, Krista, anything else before we wrap everything up with the vision boards?
No, you just, yeah, just be guided, be playful with it, right? And if it doesn't, if you're, drawn to a picture sometimes, or you're drawn to something, it doesn't have to make sense right now with everything either, right? It might be something that's going to unveil to you later on, as you stepping into it.
Yeah. A couple other little stories I want to share. One of them's not mine, and one of them is mine. Some friends of ours, they had done vision boards as a family, and then they moved house and they moved house again. And as you know, can happen, sometimes you have things that all get put away into a box, and then that box doesn't get unpacked, right? And so after the second move, unpacking the box and pulled out the vision board, and it was like, oh my goodness. So it hadn't even been up where they were seeing it, right? And multiple things on that vision board all had come true, even though it had been created and put away in a box and gone through moving house a couple of times. And the other thing is, I was, like we talked about before, in a situation where I was with a group of other women and we were doing some collaborative workshop, and did vision boards specifically around the things that that workshop was on. And this was not like this one where it's these frames. I actually set these up so that they are like the bagua or feng shui. Um, but this is just a poster with pictures and things that I wanted to create on it. And that one, I actually did it two-sided because I had so many pictures. I couldn't fit them all on the poster board that they'd given us. It was about a 14-inch square, right, piece of paper. And I thought it was fascinating because I had things come forward and happen from both sides of the vision board, even though I'd never done it like that before. But as we were putting it together, I was like, this feels okay. I feel like I can put things on both sides, and just kind of collected them more by the themes of the things that I was trying to create, and those different those different dreams that I had, and I had things come true, and and work on both sides of the vision board, even though obviously it wasn't, both sides couldn't be showing all the time. So one of the things to walk away from this is there isn't really a wrong way to do it. A vision board can be as simple as one thing that you put up on your wall. It can be something that represents it. I didn't realize it, but I have had friends over the years that they've sent me different chicken things. And as we stepped into getting chickens again this last spring, and then I started looking around in my office and looking around, and the room I'm in now is one that we use more for my massage tables in here, and we've got different treatment things in here, and this is where I journal and meditate and that kind of thing. And I like, oh, I just have all these chicken things all sprinkled around through my life. And so without necessarily meaning to, I manifested chickens back into my life, right? So I need to put some of the chicken things away so we don't get more chickens because we have 11 and that's enough. But it's interesting once you start to pay attention to vision boards and visioning, that you can see that it's working in your life. So there's not a wrong way to do it, and I hope that you really all feel encouraged to give it a try if you haven't done it before. If you're like me and it's been since last year, then it's time to freshen it up,